why would I spend my time in zone 3 and not in zone 3 heat training and not just focus on my normal bread and butter, especially if I'm a time crunch rider?
Yeah. That's a really interesting question. And we've seen, I'll try to share a few examples because I don't think there's a right answer. I think you hit on it earlier. Athletes are individuals. And what we've seen is what works for one doesn't necessarily work for the other. So I'll share a few examples. And then the whole point of the device is that you experiment with what works best for you. So yeah, you should look at how you perform if you're doing sessions. Are you getting better? Are you getting worse? But now you have a metric to determine how you can adjust. So one example would be we have some athletes that use heat training. Remco, for example, is using his heat training to actually almost like pre-prep for his altitude camp. Really interesting to see. An example of a session for that would be, maybe 1 hour within your zone 3, let's call it core temperature, and, roughly 3 days a week. And you'll begin to see those adaptations pretty rapidly. And over 2 to 3 weeks, you'll start to see some pretty significant adjustments. What we've also seen is, go ahead.
What are the sorry, before you jump on to the next one, what are the adaptations on that he's looking for? Like, are they physiological markers that we can measure?
That's where we came up with the adaptation score. Is it's hard to measure that stuff. I mean, if you're chesting your blood, I guess you could look at that. But like, for example, measuring your vascular dilation when you're actually riding, it's really difficult to do. I'm not aware of any way to measure that. I'm not aware of any. There are ways actually. So one thing you could measure is sweat rate. Your sweat rate will change and adapt to be more efficient, even the contents of your sweat. And there's quite a few devices out there that are trying to deliver those metrics. So that's something you could look at if you have lots of really cool gadgets laying around. The easier one to look at actually is just, again, power and core temp. If you're doing the same session, what you'll start to see is at the same power threshold, your core temp will be lower. That's an easy way to look at it, right? You're being more efficient. Your thermal power is lower to hit the same mechanical power number. Your efficiency is better then. So, it's rudimentary, but that you and I can do that on our Zwift ride, tomorrow. It's easy to look at.
Yeah, no, I love that. What was the second example before I got across you?
The other one we've seen it's more interesting. It's this passive heat sessions. So an example would be, okay, you've gone out, you've done your hard ride, and then you try to continue that hard ride. So maybe overdress a little bit, but to continue that heat benefit and prolong it, some athletes or coaches are prescribing, time in a warm bath, sauna, or, doing maybe another hour or so easy on the trainer to just keep the heat going that you've built up from the end of maybe that longer session. So what they're trying to do is get that passive heat without actually burning as many, watts on the legs. So it's interesting. It's kind of like trapping it in and having your body deal with trying to dissipate. You're still getting that adaptation. So those are examples that we've seen. What works best for each individual, I can't tell you. It's quite interesting how drastically different we've seen. And these are high performing coaches and individuals. It's interesting to just see what's out there. So I don't know if there's consensus yet on what's best. In fact, there's quite a few secrets, I'm sure, about what's best and who's using what.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please click up here. There's another video I know that you're absolutely going to love. Click over here and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our amazing upcoming guests.